Hello everybody, my name is Iron Lynx.
My name's Coyote.
And we are the Wildergents. This is our pilot episode. We are here to talk about our experiences and our knowledge in wilderness and outdoor settings. A little thing about ourselves is we've been doing wilderness therapy over 3 or 4 years.
Wilderness therapy, a little over 4 years.
4 years, yeah. And then also, enthusiasts of outdoors and learning other skills. And for at least the last 10 years, at least.
Yeah, I think when I tallied it up with my wife the other day, I've been in the industry for 10 years now.
Holy crap!
So over a decade.
I know, it's awesome. So we wanted to start this podcast by basically the only reason why we wanted to bring it was to, every day that we were out in the wilderness, our favorite times when we were just all sitting there shooting the breeze and talking about some random subject and laughing, and we wanted to bring that with you guys as the audience to come in with us and pretend that we're basically sitting around the fire just talking and having the day's chat and everything. So well, congratulations. This episode's going to be, because it's our first, a little bit different. We're going to
today we're just going to kind of give you guys the background of kind of what got us into wilderness therapy, what wilderness therapy even was, and why that's kind of launched us now as a platform to being able to talk about the outdoors and just kind of spread the love and enjoyment of it.
Yeah, I think also we're kind of selfish because we don't get to be in the outdoors as much anymore, so we like to reminisce and be back in it and pretend all the good old days. So do you mind if I start first?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I started, I was actually never really a outdoorsy kind of guy when I first started. I grew up in the city, and I went on camping trips and stuff like that, but I never really was this, I never hunted, I never even owned camo or anything like that at that time. I still don't. But
I'll lend you some if you want.
No, please, no. Only if it has pink stuff in it, then I'm good. No, that's not true. I do have one kind. I own that hat, the fishing camo hat, which I love.
Oh, okay.
You ever seen that, the new water camo? That's so cool. I love the colors on that. But anyways, so I didn't start that, and I was originally from California, and didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life after high school. It was really hard for me, really struggling time, and knew that there was nothing going on in my life, and so I decided to move and try something different. So I moved to Utah, of all places, which I thought was interesting, and worked, struggled. I was a telemarketer, all these other crappy jobs, couldn't find anything, and it all started around Valentine's Day when I was looking for a date for Valentine's Day with my roommates. It was kind of funny, and so we thought of what would be a good place to find a date. So we thought Craigslist, and we did. We
this was like back when Craigslist was safe.
Was it ever safe? I don't know.
I feel like.
Well, I always think it's funny. Is like I got married right after the what's it called? The app, the Tinder. Yeah, like it's like, where was this when I was before? Now I could have had a way easier fix now.
For Tinder, there was Craigslist.
Yes, Craigslist. But I remember writing the article. I wish I would have saved it. It said 3 good-looking guys looking for 3 good-looking girls to spend some time on Valentine's Day. No pressure, and and then
we'll be meeting in a public place. Like,
no, actually we didn't. But anyways, we this girl responded because I got 2 roommates. We'd love to hang out with you, and we thought it was like, all right, score. They came over. We made them a meal, and they provided the dessert, which was a real dessert. Keep your mind out of the gutter. They brought cookies, and
what kind do you remember?
I can't remember. So I'm still friends with most of them, actually. Those two of the girls there, and I probably could call them up and ask them. They probably would remember. But we just became really good friends. We all hit it off really well, and it'd be kind of the thing where we didn't really know anybody else, and so they would invite us over 3 or 4 times a week, and we'd play games, and they would cook a really good meal because we sucked at, they would make actually real food, instead of like a tombstone pizza or something, like lasagna. Oh, it was great. And we just really hit it off as everyone became really good friends. And so anyways, the start of that story was about a month later, my car broke down, and I needed some help working on it. I didn't have any tools, which is really rare for me. And I remember my roommate saying, hey, so-and-so has tools. I know I've seen her in the back of her car. Why don't you call her up? She can come over and help us. And I'm like, perfect, great. So I call her up, and she's driving this like old little small pickup truck, and she's got the little, what's it called, little toolbox thing in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, yeah, I got tools in here. And she pulls it open, and she's pulling out like this like wooden backpack and like a bow looking thing and the spindles. And I'm like, what the crap is in the back of your car? And she's like, oh, this is a wood, fire bow kit. To start a fire. And I was like, you can't start a fire by rubbing a stick. You can't. It's impossible.
It's a myth.
It's a legend. Nobody did that. She's like, no, you really can't. I'm like, nah. So she pulls it out and she busts a coal right then and there. And my eyes just lit up, and I was like, no, just so amazed. And I kind of was like, why do you have this? And she goes, it's for my work. And I was like, pause, time out. What do you mean for your work? What kind of work do you do that you have to worry about? She's like, oh, I'm a wilderness guide and I do all this. And I'm just like, what? My mind's blown, And so I said, I got to find this company because they pay you to go camping. I'm so in for this. This is something I've always dreamed of. And so she gave me the information, and it took me about a month and a half to get everything, because you got to do doctor's appointments, background checks, legal stuff, all that stuff,
all
and
the paperwork
and then and then they do, they give you an interview, and the interview is, mostly over the phone, but then they do you you got to see your skills out, and how you are in the field. And I remember doing that, and it was one of the most scariest times of my life because you get out there, and I'm this boy wearing a polo and shaved clean cut, which you would be surprised to think of it now.
A little bit.
The hair combed back, and and I was just clean cut, nails clean, and everything like that. And
well, you were from that area of Cali,
the Bay Area, no. And just remember, going in that interview and I am not looking like I fit the part at all, And but they took me out in the field, and I probably had the most miserable time of my life. And I was like, working with the staff, and I'm like, these people don't like me because I'm not like them. These are hippies or outdoorsmen or army people, and I was either like any of them. But I remember doing a week of that, and I struggled the whole week. And I just remember one of the staff just said, hey, you did good, And I was like, well, I was fighting the whole way, striding. And he's like, we all struggle, dude. But if it's keep on going and you keep on moving, that's all we want. And I never felt so welcomed from different types of people. And I mean, that's something you can tell in the wilderness is we had somebody who was seriously a cheerleader from, high school who, grown up and now working in the wilderness. And you got the guy that's the hippie who lives in a yurt or in a cave. And you got the retired military guy.
You got all types.
And it's really fascinating how they all bring something different, but they all work together at the same time. Mm-hmm. I think it's really fascinating to me to see, and I loved it because you do get such a difference. You got, this hardcore Christian guy, and then you got this atheist, and then you got a Jewish guy too at the same time, all working in the same group. And they can all bring something different to the table. It's always so fascinating to see that. And
you ever worked with a Buddhist guy?
Well, I wouldn't say. I'm pretty sure he was Buddhist, but he never really talked about it. But how was that?
No, I worked with a guy for 2 weeks and everything that was Buddhist and everything. The job, he said, didn't end up kind of being what he was looking for, but he was Buddhist and everything. And part of what he said his belief was that he wasn't actually allowed to raise his voice.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that must be so hard.
Yeah, so he's like, I couldn't yell at the kids or anything like that, so I figured it'd be perfect for the job. And I'm like, yeah, but that means you can't even yell if you're searching for a kid then or something, right?
Well, because there's sometimes you gotta, that's something people understand. Is there's sometimes you gotta be direct, quick and get their attention. And it's not about being mean, but it's about switching that to focus on you. So, I mean, still very useful and everything like that. Let me go back to and going that, so many different ranges of people. And I remember then later on going through my interview, and they're like, yeah, we'll like to have you, we'll keep you. And I was still so unprepared for the first month and a half. I was so struggling, but after doing that for about the first year, going through your hot summers and your cold winters, it really, it's funny when people start looking at you as a experienced person and everything. It's really funny to me. And stop the shaving and growing out. Well, that's the funny thing is I used to love growing out my hair, and I had to stop because of wilderness because I get dreadlocks in my hair, and they take
Oh,
forever to
really?
clean. Yeah, that's why I always think it's funny with you long hair. That's when I started cutting my hair shorter, because I hated coming back, because I love my hair, and then like it's all gross and grumpy, and I was ripping chunks out, and I was like miserable, so I had started cutting shorter after I started Wilderness.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I used to have it down to here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I keep mine long.
I know, and I always
did.
like when I see you long, I'm like, ugh.
Well, but yeah, but
But it works for you.
Yeah, well, and if you remember, like when I started and everything, I kept it in braids.
Yeah.
When we were on trail and everything, it was
Look
a lot
like
easier.
a gangster from like Southern California. What's that song I always think of? But no, just like Gangster's Paradise.
Yes, please do not be envisioning Coolio. That is not the look.
It really did look like that. But not, and I just remember that part of my, such a change in my life, and how I got started in that, and it just really changed and sculpted the person I am today. Of learning not just outdoor wilderness skills, but skills of working with people and understanding people and to read people, which helps me in so many other situations and things like that. So, but that's how I started, and maybe later on we'll go more in detail about those stories and everything.
I think we should. I think we should do
definitely
an episode of like the stories of like when you were out there and everything.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
situations.
Well, we have so many fun stories, sad stories, and exciting, and
we have the Wendigo story. That needs to be its own episode.
That's going to be for
later on.
Halloween, I thought. We'd do a Wendigo story.
That'd be all right.
Because like I still try to explain that to people, and they just don't think they get. I'm like, I don't think you guys understand what I was in. You still laugh about that today, but we'll definitely have to go over the Wendigo.
I still laugh about it. I'm still scared sometimes when I'm up in that area of the state. But yeah,
well, like that's what you try to understand people. They're like, not even forget about mythological creatures. Like you're working where there's bears, and there's mountain lions and rattlesnakes, and like when they say, hey, strap on the bear mace and make sure it's always on you at all time. Like, well, why? Why do I have bear mace on?
Yeah.
Why am I holding bear mace? Like, oh, because that's the other thing is you got to understand is when you go hiking, you and I, you're usually responsible for yourself, and I'm responsible for myself.
Yeah.
And I can depend on you. But when you have 8 to 17 kids, you got to watch. You got to be responsible for every single one, and it's a total different experience, and we'll explain that with, like when one goes to the bathroom, you got to make sure that they're okay before they, like they're, how long have they been out? You got to keep, and then you also make sure that Frank, who's over there, you got to worry about all these things, and it's very stressful sometimes doing all that.
Oh, well, yeah, and then if you throw animals into the mix, like
Absolutely.
dogs or anything that you have in the group, like that throws off a different mix too. Because what if the dog is all going around doing their thing while you're hiking on the trail, and then all of a sudden they piss off a moose, and now they're running back of the trail.
Remember
the
time
moose
I
is
lost?
following.
Well, I lost the goat for 2 days.
No, I don't.
Oh, you weren't even there for that time.
No, I don't think.
No, I lost the goat for freaking 2 days, and I'm looking all over. I'm dragging around looking. So I'll tell the story later, but basically I had to look for a goat for 2 days because we lost them. And the freaking mountain lion terror. I'm looking for a corpse is what I'm looking for. This stuff. But yeah, that was even stressful. Because Horatio, he could never keep quiet anyway. I mean, whatever. Yeah. But and that was the same thing with dogs. Because you would have a dog that would just, when they're sleeping with you and they get up in the middle of the night and runs off, like, whoa, what's going on here? What are they going after?
Yeah, exactly.
So you always have to keep that in the mix. But it was, it's stressful, but so much fun and a learning experience. And that's why we wanted to bring this to all the guests as well as to you guys as the audiences. We want you guys to kind of see what a part of a job out there that a lot of people don't even know about or even heard about.
Oh yeah,
or
a lot of people oversimplify it and they're like, "You want to get paid to go camping?"
Yeah,
and
that's
it's like,
basically.
And it's like,
and it's not that at all.
Yeah, like
I've never
it's
camped.
great, but it's not one of those things that's not the focal point and everything. Like if you're just there to go camping, you're there for the wrong reasons.
Well, you're not even going to enjoy it.
Yeah,
you're not even.
But if you're there to teach, if you're there to help, and if you're especially there to learn yourself the skills.
Absolutely.
And re-solidify them for yourself, that's the type of person that really needs to be out there.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about a little bit how you got into it, because I feel like we came from 2 different backgrounds, honestly.
Oh yeah, we absolutely did.
And I think it's funny how we've kind of merged and became friends, even though we're so different in that same way. So yeah, why don't you go on?
All right. So I grew up in Missouri, actually, a little town called, well, it's not little anymore. It's grown a lot, but called Liberty. It's just outside Kansas City. And so grew up in kind of a suburb and everything. Like, yeah, we had like a little bit of spotted woods around us at the time, but I mean, it was definitely a suburb and everything, right? And again, kind of like you, I never really went hunting. I went fishing like a handful of times, but like my family wasn't amazingly outdoorsy, right? Like I think when I was real little, we went on like a canoe trip and then a camping trip. Like it just wasn't kind of a thing, for my family, and I wasn't really into it. Fast forward then to like my college years and everything, and so I ended up having a tragedy that happened in my life that then, in grief, I kind of got a friend to start showing me kind of skills in the woods, and those skills, every weekend we'd go out, we'd just practice, we just go learn more and more, and I had a lot of fun with that. And come to the summertime, I needed a job, so a friend of mine was like, hey, I work up in Iowa in Boone at this like summer camp. I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. She's like, yeah, there's only like 8 workers though, so it's tiny, but you can come if you want, kind of thing. And so just got a wild hair and went up for the summer and everything. And I thought like, okay, well, I have some knowledge of skills I've been practicing over like some time and stuff like that. And they're like, okay, go do it. And so taught it, loved it. I think that's the moment, that summer is when I fell in love with teaching. Because if you enjoy teaching, right, it makes you learn a skill more in depth.
Oh, absolutely.
And more solid than you would normally. You have to break every little thing of it down. How do I want to convey this piece of information? What are these different steps and everything? Take bow drill, for instance. You mentioned your friend had a bow drill kit.
Yeah.
And everything. With bow drill kit, like you can go watch a YouTube video and you can kind of go figure it out. But when you're trying to like explain to somebody who's greener than green, like how this goes, and do this, do that, craft your bow like this.
Real quick is most of the people we were teaching, imagine like a 14, 16-year-old teenager, boy or girl, that this is how you're going to start your fire so you can cook your food.
Yeah.
These kids have never, I mean, let alone me, ever, when we first started, depended on something like that to cook your food. You mean like we'd at least depend on matches or a lighter to cook your food, where we're like, no, we don't have that. All we have is this bow drill to get a fire going. And then we can have a fire and then we can cook. And so, and like I said, also like with you explaining, trying to explain something doesn't quite feel it all the way. It's all about, like with bow drill, I feel like there's a lot of feel into it.
Yeah.
And trying to explain that to somebody, that feel of like what's going right and what's going wrong. So also too.
Oh, exactly. And the last part of that is teaching somebody who doesn't want to be there, doesn't care about you, and really doesn't want your help.
Yes.
They do, but they don't want it.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the summer camps and everything is where I enjoyed it. Taught horseback riding there.
Oh yeah.
The following summer, fast forward a year and everything, I wanted to get a little bit better pay, and a camp that was closer to where I was living. So found another one, went down there, and that's when I actually met Jack and everything. Jack is a mutual friend of ours.
Yes.
And worked with us at the same company for a long time and everything. He's out in Washington right now, actually still working wilderness therapy out there.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, he's finally kind of risen up the ranks. He's the logistics guy there now.
Sweet.
Yeah. So he's doing awesome.
That's so good for him. I'm really happy for him.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's awesome. And honestly, I love Jack's personality that clashes with my personality. Jack is a very, what would you say, a very
stoic.
Stoic, yes.
Yeah. Jack is stoic.
Well, and it's fun because different personalities reach different people, and it's really but he's stoic, but he makes me laugh.
Oh yeah.
Every time he's the way he's
extremely dry humor.
It's so funny. Because like you're sitting there going, was that a joke? Wait, did you just make a funny?
Seriously, you're like, I think he did.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, that was like that's what made me laugh every time. He just made me laugh all the time. So no, I love it.
Oh yeah, miss him.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, I worked the second summer camp with him, and we did the survival skills course together. And so that was really cool because it was archery, it was trapping, it was plan identification, proper camping techniques, L&T. So that was really cool. And then after that summer was over, I moved back home to my dad and sister's house and was working in a lumber mill there. And every single weekend, like clockwork, I would spend Saturday and Sunday out in the woods, just learn the skills, just shoot my bow. Like that, I was obsessed.
Yeah.
And so waited a year in there, and then ended up going into looking at wilderness therapy. Jack had actually told me about it, so he and another old friend drove through and visited me and everything. And he told me about meeting these two guys at a primitive skills gathering.
Yes.
And so he met them at a primitive skills gathering. They owned this wilderness therapy company, and it was basically like they hired him almost on the spot, just because. I mean, you go to those gatherings, you know how intimate they can get and everything.
Well, you're not there for like 2 hours. You're there all day long for a week, and you see everybody through their rough and hard times and how they respond and everything. So yeah.
Exactly. So they hired him, and so he was going out to do the job. That's why he was moving. So his car was all packed. He told me about it, and so I started doing research on it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
And so he's like, yeah. They're not hiring though till the fall. So what are you going to do till the fall? And I'm like, well, I could be miserable and work the lumber mill still, or maybe I can try and teach somewhere for the summer and everything, and get paid to teach before I go out and teach for wilderness therapy. That'd be awesome. I actually ended up hooking up with the same camp I went to the second summer, and she was like, hey, we actually would like you to come and write the survival skills program. That's and awesome. Design it, and then implement it and teach people how to teach it. I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And so went out, loved that summer. It was awesome and everything. But halfway through the summer, when I call up and have my phone interview for the wilderness therapy company, they weren't hiring at the time. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? And so I applied at 2 other well-known wilderness companies and everything. One of them was the one that you had actually worked for previously.
That's right.
Yeah. And so they had accepted me on to come out for a field trial and everything. And then 2 days before the end of camp, I got the call like, hey, we want you to come out for, the original company, the one that we met at and everything. Can you be here in 4 days? I was like, sure. So, because in my head I'm thinking like, okay, I have 2 days, and then I have a 5-hour drive to get back to my place, and then now I have an 18-hour drive to get out.
That's miserable.
And so I made it out, and I made it out that the next morning and everything. Went to the office with Jack with all my gear, and then shipped out for
that's what
my
they
first
do.
week.
It's trial by fire.
It really is.
It really. Well, that's like, but honestly, it's the best way, because you think that's going to be the hardest thing in your life in the wilderness, and I'll tell you, that's probably going to be the easiest thing in your life, to go straight out to the field. Everything else, it gets crazy out there. And I've been cut and stabbed and everything like that, but up there I've almost lost my leg. Out there.
I think you technically did lose the foot. They just reattached it. Technically.
Those are all other stories we can tell you guys.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy stuff. I've stitched up kids. I've seen broken bones. I've seen fights that are endless, and creatures. I mean, the stuff that you deal with, things you have to deal with, and it's emotional, physical, even spiritual draining sometimes. Doing that. So it's so when you think, oh man, they're sending me straight out, and like, how, oh my gosh, this is like so scary. And it's like, that was like me too, after like being there for 2 days at the other place. They're like, you're going out, and I'm like, what? I was freaking out. And I look back, I'm like, that was the easiest thing I've ever done, was go out. It was dealing with the crap out there. After later on was the hard stuff. Going out, easy, but
I'll be honest, there was one, I worked for that primary company that you and I worked for, but there was a second company I took like a 3-month lapse and went to them to kind of try them out kind of thing. And honestly, I actually liked their way of training a lot better. So they took you for like 6 days of just your like training group and like 3 of their like experienced guides. And so they'd run you through scenarios
Yes.
and stuff like that, and they'd take you on different hikes, teach you different things that were essential for the job. Like we did a lot of climbing.
Yeah.
So you didn't need climbing experience. It was a plus, but you didn't need it because they were going to teach you like all the knot work and everything that you need to know and test you on it practically. But then the last 2 days after, so like you had 6 days, and then the last 2 days to make the 8 days and everything, that's when they threw you in with groups and everything to like see how well you did. But it was nice because it kind of made like a stronger like family bond almost with your training group and everything. And so you'd see like your training group down the way, and you know, you wouldn't always get assigned the same groups together and everything, but when you did, it was like, oh yeah. Like,
well, you know, with the staff, I always remember, I mean, I'm still very close to a lot of them, even though it's been almost 10 years sometimes with some of these people, because you become a family bond. Like, you're with them, and you're with them sometimes through rough times, you know. Also, a lot of, with my first company, they actually had a thing with, they had, like, tons of marriages.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, like, you know, guy and girl work out, you know, in the field, and most of the time you see everybody at their worst, and they would get married very quickly after they've been working together. There was a couple like that. So the girl that got me into it, her brother got married to a guide after like 3 weeks of 3 weeks working together. He really wanted to marry her. I thought that was crazy. I was like, whoa, because they, you know, you think about it, you see everybody at their you know, you see a woman, no makeup on,
ain't showered in 8 days, same clothes,
smelly,
like, and they more importantly, they see you as that too.
That too.
You know?
And if you're still, you know, you still want to be with them. I mean, and there's another thing is, I don't care who you are. You can be the most Christian following person, nun. You're gonna start swearing, and you're gonna turn into a sailor out there.
It's weird, isn't it?
Because,
so I didn't used to swear that much before I went and worked wilderness therapy, and then you're out there and you're monitoring. One of the things that a lot of times gets monitored is the swearing of your clients.
Well, because with most teenagers, they swear all the time.
Yeah.
And that's something, it's like a psychological, you know, like you're trying to communicate with them.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're like, what F this and F that? And you're like, hey, dude, like, stop it. Like, you don't need to put those words in there to give me a sentence, you know? Like, those aren't, they're not
Well, I was always told if you can't monitor just the words that come out of your mouth, how can you ever hope to monitor your actions?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. I totally agree. But that was sometimes you'd hear all this, and it would get into your brain, and you'd start saying it, and you're like, why am I saying this? Like, you know, but like we would have like the sweetest people ever, and then they'd just be like, they start saying it, and you'd be like, like they just swore.
Like the moment you stepped in the truck to drive home after the end of the shift, it was while you're on your way to your dirty dinner, which for those of you that don't know,
dirty dinners are the best.
Dirty dinners are when you and everybody else on shift that ain't showered in 8+ days, you all go out to like a Chili's or something together,
restaurant,
as you just stink. But
it's a really great way to get your food fast and out of the restaurant ASAP, because nobody
is.
wants you in there.
But no, you talked about like, you know, people dating on trail and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, my wife and I were dating when we were on trail.
That's true.
So I didn't meet her on trail. I met her like.
But I really think that helped you guys in your marriage.
Oh yeah,
well.
Absolutely. You know, because now we were forced to be in very, very stressful situations together and everything, and then see each other from pretty much the get go, like. You know, because she started, you know, real soon after we started dating and everything. And, you know, we got to see each other when you're nasty, sweaty, you're tired, you're irritable and everything. And so that just really helped strengthen it up and everything. Yeah. So let's talk about this now.
Okay.
So for this podcast and everything, you kind of mentioned it a little bit on the way in and everything, but why did you really, really want to start this?
The podcast, well, I wanted to start it because, like, you know, when you've been around, when we talk to somebody else who's never done wilderness, and we start bringing up the stories, and they just, their eyes light up, and they're laughing, and they're enjoying, and they're asking questions, and I just felt like it was an experience that a lot of people don't get to understand, that there's something like this out there, and the things that we've experienced in our lives, that it's hard to explain to somebody in just one sitting. And I thought the reason to do the podcast would to people to enjoy these stories, and not also just I didn't want this podcast just to be about us in wilderness therapy, but also survival skills, but then also other people who wanted to come in and share their experiences of doing something like I don't mountain bike ride. I know you don't, but if we want to have somebody who wants to come in and talk about mountain bike riding and what they experienced and what I want that to come in here. I wanted it because I feel like we are a people who've forgotten the wilderness. And not to get religious on anybody, but I also like to, I think about the people of Moses, where they wandered around in the desert for 40 years. And that the Jewish people still have the Passover to remind them of that. And I think us, as everybody else, we kind of forget that's where we came from. There was somebody who taught me something really fascinating one time with the bow drill.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about the bow drill, and I said something like, yeah, it's just cool that we're using this Native American skill and to teach kids something. And he stopped me and he says, well, no, your ancestors used it too.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit farther back. And that blew my mind. I wasn't teaching a Native American skill. I was teaching my own ancestry skill at the same time.
Yeah, because I think a lot of things actually make that same mistake and everything. I used to have a first edition copy of Boy Scout Handbook of America,
mm-hmm.
and I remember it saying that these were Native American skills. Now I don't know if that's because they were trying to tie the Boy Scouts specifically so much to America.
Yeah,
but it was fascinating because I read that, I was like, no, this is technically everybody.
Yeah.
It's just different timelines.
Absolutely. And that our ancestors at one point was learning a skill that were primitive in that sense, like where, we were, out there camping and we were living, and trying to start fire. We didn't have, there was a point we didn't have matches and lighters. We had something else that we had to use.
Fun fact, the cigarette lighter was invented before the match.
I thought that's fascinating too. So the lighter is more primitive than the match.
Technically, yeah.
That's kind of creepy and weird to think about.
Well, the only reason that the match even took off was because guys could shave down the matchstick to toothpicks. That's really the only.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the only reason it really took off.
Huh, makes sense.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. But I mean, even look at the medieval times. I mean, they were doing flint and steel.
Yeah. Which
is still a very primitive kind of skill to start a fire, which we still use today in that same sense. And I think that's still very fascinating because, you're looking at it like, hitting two rocks and steel together and I'm like, no, this is medieval practice, basically.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, we didn't even see parabolic lens come in as like a well-known fire, starting material until really we started to see fur trappers in the Rocky Mountain section.
Yeah.
So not even like long hunters, they were still working with flint and steel too.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing about people, you try to explain wilderness. I like to ask people always this question. I always go, when was the last time you were ever truly alone? And I mean, where you were alone where you didn't have no phone, no communication, no distractions of TV, and you reflected on yourself. When was the last time you've ever done that? And not many of us can ever say we've done that before, where we had no distractions and we could just focus on ourselves and to think about what we can do better. And that's something that I've got to do a couple times in my life, which is amazing to sit there and to reflect on, basically giving myself a personal interview and saying, hey, what do I need to do better in my life? What am I doing wrong? And reevaluate my life and do it. And I recommend everyone to do that once in their life. Just sit there and reevaluate what they need to do better in their life. Just spend a couple days, no phone, no distractions, no music.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do. We always use those things to, I got to listen to something. I got to do something and not worry about focusing on myself.
Yeah, we mask it as entertainment when most of us use it as a daily distraction.
Yeah, we do. We all do. And I'm not saying that music's bad or I still enjoy it, but it's like, but sometimes we do need to take those times to focus on ourselves and everything. And that's what we would do those with the kids, where they would send them on those solos for like 3 days, where we'd send them away from the group. We'd keep an eye on them and we'd watch them, and make sure they were fine, but they would be by themselves. And sometimes they were amazing. These kids come back and they're just like, wow, I've been, focusing on myself and I got to do these things. And then you have other kids who don't want to do it. They're so scared to because, like I said, once you find you're doing something wrong, you got to do something about it. And I've had kids where they just basically freak out and they run because they're just like, I can't take it anymore. I had a kid rip off his clothes and take off running naked in the desert because he was freaking out
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, holy crap, kid! Like it was like only been 6 hours. Like he went mentally insane, crazy running, and because you just see these with these kids, and it's like they don't, and not just this kid, but most people don't want to work on themselves because.
Well, I found a lot of kids that didn't want to, actually like feel that and didn't want to work on it.
Yeah.
They'd sleep.
Yeah.
They just, I mean, you're sitting here like, how can you be sleeping 20 plus hours?
Oh yeah. Or they would build dirt mounds or something, anything to keep themselves distracted.
Yeah,
yeah.
And it's like, but that's not the point of why you were on the solo. But I think like a modern day sense of the solo is don't go take the RV or anything like that. Yeah. Just get yourself your little Walmart tent or something like that. Walk out and just be with the people that matter the most to you. Absolutely. And just go practice the skills. Even I see a lot of guys on YouTube, for instance, mm-hmm. right? A lot of guys who are, they've got bushcraft channels on YouTube and mm-hmm. stuff like that. And a lot of those guys just have a pack that they keep in their truck or in their car and everything. Mm-hmm. And they, are driving home from work and everything, and they'll stop in the woods for a couple hours. Long enough to sit there, make a fire, make some coffee or something like that. And that's the limit of their experience. They might go out on like 1 or 2 big trips a year, but that's like the limit of their like time in the outdoors.
Yeah.
But you look at them, they're so happy.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's because they take that moment of pause and everything, and they do reconnect to the tangible world that is
absolutely
around us. And for them, it's on a near daily basis on some of those guys,
well, I feel like even just not even doing that, I think just taking some time to go on a walk. Just around have you ever, like, I think it's fascinating, if you ever take a walk early in the morning around your neighborhood, how quiet, peaceful it is, no music in the ears, just enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I like to do that
nice brisk morning too.
Oh yeah. But like also just to sit there and go, what do I need to do for the day? Yeah. And I kind of give myself like a planned goal. And I think it's fascinating how much better my days are when I do that compared to, because I'm always, oh man, I could just sleep for an extra hour. It's going to be so much better. And but I look back on it when I think about last week. How tired was I last week? I can't really remember I know I was tired, but I can't, it doesn't matter. It's gone. Yeah. I could have woken up an hour early and did some workout, exercise, or I could have walked instead of doing that extra hour sleeping in, just to make my day better, make it more productive. But I mean, even just, especially during this time when we're in this, quarantine shutdown, you can still go on walks. Get out there in nature and take a walk with your family and enjoy it with each other.
We went down by the river bottoms the other day on the walking trail down there.
Yeah.
And there was families out there.
Oh yeah.
Walking around. Somebody was even like, their kid was writing with chalk like on the trail, like little like silly dad jokes. Like as you're walking, you could see the punchline and stuff. But I mean, you're down there and you're like, I don't know. I was discussing it with my wife at the time, right? Because we're looking at soon in life we want to buy land, mm-hmm. And get our own place on that. And so we're looking at it, and we're like, wow, like with the trees and the way that this area is put together and everything, like you feel like you have your own space. You feel like you're kind of tucked back in the woods a little bit and everything. And yet, I can look over, and on the horizon right there, I see Provo.
Yeah.
It's not that far away. Mm-hmm. It's 15-minute drive. Mm-hmm. But just being here and everything, being that far away.
Oh, absolutely.
You do feel more connected to it, and it just is more relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for some people, the woods is not relaxing, but
yeah, no, it's true. We all have our different levels.
Yeah.
And that's something I always, people are like, oh, when you go camping, you must be like just a knife and a deerskin cloth. And I'm like, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'm going to bring like freaking blow-up mattress and my,
It does depend on the mood, doesn't it? Yeah.
Because like there's sometimes you want to go camping and you want to bring the blow-up mattress and the Twinkies and all the other fun stuff. And other times, I do want to go out there and learn primitive.
I just want to take a wool blanket on my back and everything.
Absolutely.
Knife and axe on my hip, mm-hmm. and fire in my back pocket, go do my thing.
But like I said, there's no way you can do camping wrong as long as you're out of the house. Like you really can't.
Right? I talk about it on my blog, even that for a lot of the people who are interested in getting into the outdoors, and this is why I kind of wanted to join you on doing this podcast, is for a lot of the people who are interested in doing the outdoors, not everyone grew up with that kind of background and everything. You and I didn't.
No.
And so where do you learn? You need somebody to teach you, but you also need a kind of a space to be taught and not feel embarrassed, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I always advocate for, through the social media and everything, is listen, if you've never gone camping before, or if you think you're ready but you want to see if that sleeping bag is going to work or something like that,
Yeah.
you have a backyard, you have a driveway, like unless you're in an apartment complex, and then which case we'll figure it out.
No, you got a patio.
You got a little patio, yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, you have like that space that's safe. If something goes wrong, you can pull that ripcord, walk back into the house.
Absolutely. Well,
But you
should
can
always
get more
have a ripcord when you're,
yeah.
you know what I mean? That's what I always.
But I'm saying,
yeah, no,
you
absolutely.
can be more comfortable and learning those skills and everything for your end goal, which is I want to get back out in nature. I want to go experience the outdoors. You know, think about climbing. Climbing has indoor climbing gyms and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So that way, when it's too cold to be up on rock, or if you're scared of being up on real rock and want to learn the skills first,
Right, I mean,
those
that's
are,
it.
yeah, it's a safe place to go learn it, and then take your skills out there and enjoy it.
Well, and that's the other thing. That's why I loved your Kindle the Fire. That group that you have is my main goal with you when we were talking about it is I wanted people to have different styles. I wanted the extreme camper, but I also wanted the guy that's like, I got a minivan and I'm going to go to Walmart to get all my gear. I'm like, great, we want you too. I don't need you to be, you know, wearing all the buckskin and you know, I want the guy that's going to be wearing the you know, what are they called, the cargo, what are those pants called?
Oh, the cargo pants?
Yeah, the capri pants with the zips off and everything like that. I want that guy with us. 'Cause you know what? We can all, you know, it's still a fun experience, you know, and I want you to have that cheap tent and that sleeping bag that's, you know, that's, I love those. You know, like the old ones that are like really big and they have like always like the duck pattern inside.
Oh, I love mine.
I still have one
awesome.
too because
they're heavy, but they're
heavy.
awesome.
But I mean, we're not hiking. I'm totally bringing
Oh
one.
yeah.
So that's like, you know, I think it's hilarious because, you know, I think there was a stage when we were younger where that was like people were like getting rid of that kind of camping gear and going ultra light. And like
it became kind of a fad almost.
Yeah, like, and I still forget, like, well, yeah, the ultralight's great. I'm not trying to down it. I think that it has its reason, but you know, like the tents, right? You know, where people are like, oh, this tent weighs like 1.5 pounds, made on aluminum, and it's like $300. And I'm like, my tent weighs 8 pounds more, and it's made out of metal and at Walmart, and it cost me $20, and we're just jumping out of our car. So why are we caring about hiking? You know, no offense, like that's a great tent, but I don't want to spend $300-400 on a tent that's thinner than my underwear to protect me from the elements.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and a tarp.
Oh, way cheaper.
We used to give the kids just tarps in the summertime and stuff like that, and those tarps were $7 tarps.
Oh, I know. Well,
and they did fantastic.
And they're so you know, universal and different things you can do with
I love tarpitecture.
Oh, me too. Especially in the rain and building things. Used to build hammocks out of them.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, and all that other fun stuff. But you know, it's always good. It's, you know, and that's really, I think we're really hoping that, I know this first one's going to be kind of like, I feel like it's going to be the train. We're just trying to get it going first.
We're going to track.
So we promise that they'll be a lot more exciting. Will be a lot more fun. We'll go more deep into certain subjects. I'd like to, if you guys have any questions, or if you guys want to email us, you can email us at wildergents.com@gmail.com. If you guys want to ask questions, or you want to say something, or you want to hear a certain topic, let us know. Or that you just absolutely hate our show and you never want to hear us again, that's great. Either way, we're down with it.
We like feedback, so even if it's negative, bring it on.
Bring it on, yeah.
We might ignore you, maybe make fun of you over coffee. Bring it on.
We're good, yeah. But you know, we want to bring content that you guys want to hear. That's the whole thing. Is you don't go around the fire. You want to hear stories that people want to talk about. And so, but that's everything. And I wanted you to bring up your blog that you took, because you write amazing. Like, your blogs aren't just like, it's, you actually do research.
Yeah.
Which I'm really impressed by sometimes when I read it, because I'll read it and I'm like, who wrote this? Because this doesn't seem like Dakota wrote this. I think
actually I had an insulting one the other day where like somebody was like, oh, you're it looks like you haven't done your research, and it was on the American Tomahawk.
I'm
like, are you kidding me? I went to the library and read books on.
Oh no, like, and you can tell, like, you go, hey, and this, you know, and you put your dates, you put your information, which I'm like, man, I'd never even write that. I'd be like, yeah, tomahawks are sharp, and you can throw them. Like, that's what I would have wrote. You know, like,
and you wouldn't be wrong.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm never wrong. You know that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like the worst teacher. Like, all right, guys, this is a stick. You can poke people.
It is pointy, and Steve Irwin used it to poke a lot of things.
It was amazing. It was awesome. I mean, like that. I mean, like, it's just. But you do really. So I was gonna say, I want you to put what's your blog called, so you can actually do some research.
So the site is all lowercase blog.kindlethefire.us, because I picked the worst name. for anything. I picked Kindle the Fire, and come to find out that Amazon has the words Kindle Fire on any kind of system.
So you should have
taken
just
out.
called Kindle the Fire Amazon-ish something, and the Amazon. That's what I would have said.
It was already taken. It's why the blog is blog.kindlethefire.us, because .com, .org,
Oh, I'm sure.
it was all taken.
Well, usually when those big they buy them all because they don't want
exactly.
anything, yeah.
So US is mine. So, but yeah, blog.kindlethefire.us. It's got links to our YouTube channel. It's got links to our Instagram, Facebook. I always send people over to the Facebook page because we have a lot of events and everything. Like you came and helped out with the last event that we did where we made those Capo wool blanket coats.
Yeah.
So
You know which one I really enjoyed the most, though?
which one?
And because I was mostly the main event. So.
The cooking one?
Yeah.
Oh, the cooking one was cool. But
I
yeah,
want to redo my thing again for cooking. I thought it'd be really fun.
yeah,
to
I
do.
wanted to talk to you about that and do a lesson, but we can talk after the show.
That's
on that
dope. Yeah,
one,
no, sorry.
But yeah, so Kindle the Fire is it's a blog I write. We have a YouTube channel, and we put on monthly workshops trying to invite people out, teach them different skills and everything that isn't.
Well, and it's
quite
also
stuff
there's
that
also
they
a history lesson behind why we're learning this skill as well. You know,
Yeah,
like, even
yeah.
like when you did the capoodles and then the tomahawk. When you talk about it, like where's the history from that? Really fascinating. So and that's why I it's not just some. It's a good read. So it's not like I want people to understand like this is something that's it's very historic when you read it. Like you've done your research, you do your timelines on it and everything, your dates. You even got pictures in there and everything
Yeah.
of different types. When I read that one, I was really quite impressed. I was like, wow, Dakota actually did his work. I was really impressed by Dakota. So
Well, thank you.
yeah.
I was really actually happy. My father-in-law said that I should put it put one of the articles that I wrote, one of the blog posts, submit it to Backwoodsman magazine.
Yeah.
And so I did. I submitted to Backwoodsman magazine. I got a letter back saying that they're going to publish it.
That's
So
awesome.
it's
No,
supposed
good.
to be. It's
Yeah,
supposed
no,
to be in
it
the
was-
one that's coming out in a couple weeks, the March/April.
Well,
Because
let
they come out like every
Yeah,
2 months.
let me know because I'll buy it. Definitely get buy one because I thought it was. I mean, even though I read the article, I just think it's kind of cool that you
Yeah.
did that because it was very professionally well done. I was really impressed by it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So we appreciate you guys. We don't want to make these about 45 minutes long is our kind of our goal set and everything. We're glad that you guys came and listened to the first one. I do promise you, it's going to get more exciting. Our next episode is going to be a little bit more fun and enjoyable. I don't want to ruin the title for you guys, so you're going to have to hear about it later on. But you know, like we say, we're not the best guys in the wilderness, but we are the best looking.
And you have no way to verify.
That's right.
this.
That's like what I say on the internet when I do my profile. I'm 6'5". You know when I.
Especially living around Provo.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh, all the Norwegian. Everybody's got freaking Swedish.
Everybody's tall.
Everybody's Swedish blood around here.
But yeah, no, thank you guys for listening to the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it and everything. Like we said, leave us some feedback if you want. We always appreciate if you guys want to share it with your friends and everything. Just kind of get them talking about the same topics and everything. If you're interested you live in the West and everything, and you ever want to, talk to us about talking about a topic that you're really passionate about, please go ahead and send us an email. What was that email again?
Wildergents@gmail.com.
Yeah, send us an email and everything, and maybe we can work something out. We'd, love to, at least if nothing else, just start talking to you. So
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting people around. Have a good day.
Howdy y'all, Coyote here. If you enjoyed the clip you just heard, you can listen to the whole episode on Spotify, Apple, Pandora, or anywhere else you like to listen to your podcast on. And if you really like the clip you just heard, please consider giving us a like or click the subscribe button so you don't miss out on new episodes coming at you every week.